How you guys doing? This is Josh here with Ohio Fish Rescue, and today I'm here to talk to you about medicating your fish tanks. You know, sometimes we have community service workers over here at the rescue, and sometimes they just don't listen to you, and sometimes they put fish where they're not supposed to go, or you know, we do like to give tours, and sometimes people slip things in the water just to think that it'll be in there and it'll be cool. But right there is an African cichlid. Alright guys, you know, me nor my dad would have put an African cichlid in here, let alone just a lonely guy. They might have thrown a few in here, but if we got African cichlids in, we would have definitely put them in the African cichlid tank. But someone, I don't know who, but they had slipped this little African cichlid into the big 58,000 gallon pond. Now mind you, he's hiding it in the rocks. He'll probably survive, but eventually someone might pick him off. But the moral of the story here is we don't like just dropping fish into different ponds because for one, they weren't quarantined. Now, I don't know if someone just took this net right here and scooped a fish out of our cichlid tank and just threw them down into the pond thinking, oh, this might be something neat to do. I don't know. I can't say. But let's come in here to the actual rescue. Now, we had a community service worker over here the other day, and they were taking fish out of the 55 gallon stacks because they finished up quarantine. Now what they ended up doing, they didn't listen to our directions and they took the wrong fish out of the wrong tank, was not quarantined properly, and threw them right into our system. So that just puts our whole system in jeopardy. Now if you guys know, it is the 80,000 gallon system, and we do not like to jeopardize that because that's a lot of water to be treating. But, you know, I see a lot of these fish flashing, so I'm just taking precaution now and I'm treating the whole system. So for starters, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab one of these 55 gallon drums. Now, what in the world would I need one of these things for? Well, I'll tell you guys. So what we use these for is we put the chemicals in these tubs. We then fill it with our fish tank water. In this case, I'm going to be salting the whole system. So I will show you guys what kind of salt we use, what kind of dosage we use, and how we administer it. Because you don't want to just dump salt into your tanks. That is very bad. It can shock your fish. It can kill your fish. So I'm going to show you guys what we think is the best way to administer salt. Alright guys, as I said, we take this 55 gallon drum. We administer our chemicals inside this drum. In this case, we are using salt. Now what I like to use, because we have a lot of water, I go up to Home Depot and I get the salt for water softeners. Now you have to make sure it is 100% natural. There is some salts for water softeners that have additive chemicals in there. You don't want those. Those will be bad for the fish. So there's a bunch of different brands, but you just got to read the bag and make sure it says 100% all natural, naturally evaporated. You know, everything. There's signs all over the bag that's going to tell you if this is actually good for your fish or not. See that this one here, made naturally with sun, wind, and thyme. There's no additional chemicals that have been put into this salt. So let me go ahead and pour this in. As promised, I will not steer you guys wrong. Here we take, this was a 40-pound bag of salt. Okay, now this is not nearly enough for the amount of water that we need. So looking at this stuff right here, how we dose our tanks, we take 1 cup of this salt for every 160 gallons. So you sit here, you You count it cup by cup, and you do the math. By the end of it, I need about 120 pounds. So every time I salt, I use 3 of these bags. That is $6-7 a bag. That's, $20, and I get to salt my whole system and make sure my fish are at ease. So I'm going to go ahead and go out front and grab the rest of this salt, carry it in from the car. Just so you guys don't think I'm yanking your chain, I did just run up to Home Depot, and I had to buy 2 more bags of the exact same salt because we only had 1 bag here, and that was not enough. So let's go ahead and get these in back and finish up with this tutorial on how to medicate your tank. Okay guys, that is all 3 bags of salt, 120 pounds. That filled up this drum about 1/4 of a way. Now, like I said, we want to go ahead and fill this tub with water. So I'm just using fish tank water. Yes, I'm using an FX5. So we're just going to go ahead and fill this tub. Now what you guys want to do is preferably stick a pump down in here and let the water just recirculate on itself. Let it dissolve as much as possible. Once the water goes semi-clear, you want to take a small hose and you want to tie it off to where it slowly adds into your tank. So I'm going to go ahead and let this fill up. I'm going to go find a pump so I can get this water circulating, and I'll come back and show you guys how we do the rest of it. Okay guys, it's been full, it's been sitting, circulating for a while. You can see the water's just churning around. Yes, I have a power head in the water. It's just slowly churning your water, slowly dissolving that salt at the bottom. Now, once it gets to a consistent clearish color like this, you want to go ahead. I use airline tubing. So for this amount of water, I just take an airline tubing and I just stick it in here and I let it slowly administer into the big pond. Now, mind you, that's a little amount of salt for 58,000 gallons of water. That's also being pumped up to another 20 or so. But usually, if we were salting a smaller tank, we would take this airline tubing, we would tie it off, and we would let it slowly but surely drip into the tank. And we would let this be administered overnight, so you don't shock your fish by just throwing salt in the water. Now, if I took these bags of salt and I just dumped them in the water, yes, it would eventually dissolve, but you would have salt crystals all over the bottom of your pond. And then, you're liable, your fish might come over and eat it. They might get a big gulp of salt water coming in their gills. It might burn them, so it can potentially do harm to your fish. So we found out that this is actually the best way for us to administer salt. Now, if we are doing a harsher chemical, we might do it the same way. We'll fill this tub up with water, we'll dilute it down, and we'll slowly add it into our tanks over time. But for, general medications like ICCure or, just your common run-of-the-litter aquarium medications, you can go ahead and just add that straight into your water and be perfectly fine. You just add enough for that tank and you're perfectly fine. This is only for harsh chemicals, and salt is one of them. The fish does not like a drastic change in salt content in your water. So I'm going to go ahead and let this, drip into our pond for a very long time. And we'll keep on checking. Now this tub will empty down. So I'm going to have to keep filling this with water, dissolving more salt, and basically just rinse and repeat until all your salt is administered into your tank. Alright, as you guys can see, we've got it clamped up top. The hose is going down to the bottom of the barrel. It is your typical airline hosing. I do have a knot in the hose here to slow down the amount of water coming out. Now, say if I was just medicating the system inside the fish room and not this pond, I would, drip it into the sump at this rate. So it's steadily but gradually brings up the salt content in your water. It doesn't really stress the fish out any more than they need to be. But with this much water in the pond, I think I'm going to go ahead and speed this up just a tiny bit, because we've got a lot of water passing through here. You know, if you have twice this speed, just a drip, 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 then that much salt won't really affect this much water as drastically as, you know, it would a 125 gallon or 1,000 gallon. So I'm going to go ahead and let this sit overnight, and it's slowly going to drip out. Of course, I'm going to have to refill it. I'm going to keep the pump, keep on circulating this water, of course, and we're going to bring the salt content up of the 80,000 gallon system. Alright guys, after this salt's done being administered into the pond, it's fully mixed in with the system into the fish room. After a few days, we'll see how the fish respond to everything, and if we have to, we will go ahead and dose the whole system with a broad spectrum disease treatment that treats, you know, fungal, parasites, some bacterial infections. But I didn't want to put them through that much stress, because it was just a small mistake, but a mistake nonetheless. It's, you know, there to teach us that no matter how hard we try, there's always one thing that can be messed up and will be messed up. In this case, it was one of our volunteers or community service workers who just so happened to grab the wrong fish out of the wrong tank, which it's fine. That just means that we have to be more careful in the future. You know, either me or my dad or my mom or other people who are knowledgeable have to watch these guys as to make sure that they don't put the wrong fish in the wrong tanks, or, you know, bring the wrong fish out of quarantine, because that can be devastating to a system. So we are treating our system with salt. We are going to monitor everything for a few days. I'm not worried in the least bit. I 100% believe that the salt will fix everyone here, but it is precautionary. And if things do happen to not work out, we will treat with bigger and better medications. So I hope you guys learned just a little bit of something today. You might think on how you quarantine your fish, or, you know, or how you administer your medications. This is how we do it at Ohio Fish Rescue. You know, we always do things big, mixing up medication in a 55-gallon drum. So I thank you guys for watching today's video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.